some different faces. Senator Katie Britt, a member of that majority, that Republican majority, will be in attendance. It's her first term representing the great state of Alabama. She's the youngest woman ever elected to the Senate, and she joins me right now. Senator Britt, thank you very much for being here.
Tony, thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate it. I want to get into the tariffs because they affect people's pocketbooks. But let's talk about something else that affects people's pocketbooks, child care. Off camera, we were just talking about it. It's often the biggest expense in people's lives, and it's an obstacle to doing what they want to do. You've got a bill, bipartisan, to try to bring down costs. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. So Senator Tim Kaine and I came together. This is something I wanted to tackle coming to the Senate. I often say I'm a mom on a mission, and I have a unique perspective, and I think it's important to bring that to the table. I have seen it not only in my own life, when we couldn't get both of our children into the same child care facility, and then when we actually started writing checks, Tony, I felt like I was writing a check for college tuition. And so looking at that, and then looking and talking to our constituency, from our biggest manufacturers to our smallest businesses, saying, you know, we need people to enter this workforce. If we want to achieve President Trump's vision of building back America, we have to have workers to do it. And the truth is, the affordability and accessibility of childcare is an impediment to people re-entering. And look, if you have and want the opportunity to stay home, Tony, I want you to have that. But if you want to engage, if part of your American dream is entering the workforce, or there's a career path that you want to continue, I think we have an obligation to figure out how we remove those obstacles and help you achieve that. So what this does, this piece of legislation, and we have a number of Democrats and Republicans on it, because it's not a Republican issue or a Democrat issue, it's an everyone issue. And so we did this to where parents are put back in the driver's seat, giving them the optionality to do it. It also encourages employers to engage in this space. And we made sure to not just do the biggest ones, we made sure to add components so that small businesses can take advantage of this too. We're excited about what it means. You know, if you look at the average person spends about 22% of their income annually on childcare, and it cost our economy $122 billion a year. So this bill would only cost us a fraction of that, and about 4.3, and it would actually allow America to get up and running and people to achieve their American dream.
It's an interesting note there about the cost of the bill. It's something to prioritize. We could get into the philosophy or the principles there, but let's move on to tariffs, because it's big news overnight. Free trade between us and Canada, us and Mexico, is now a thing of the past, right? These tariffs are pretty big obstacles to the passage of goods. It could mean higher prices for people. That's the honest fact of it. How much are people willing to sacrifice in order for what benefit from the Republican perspective?
Yeah, so I think you're seeing that right now. You said it's a thing of the past. I think it's also a thing of the future.
Interesting.
President Trump has said this is a bargaining chip, you know, to bring people to the table. When we've looked at what's happened over our country in the last several years, fentanyl is the leading cause of death between the ages of 18 and 45. President Trump has said, I want to be serious about getting into Mexico, getting into these places, and actually dismantling the process or the facilities where these chemicals are put together and then ultimately trafficked into the United States. We've seen a remarkable few weeks. You mentioned the Laken Riley Act. I was the lead Senate sponsor on that piece of legislation. It's actually achieving results, you know, promises made, promises kept. But we also said we're going to keep Americans safe from fentanyl. I think President Trump is bringing people to the table. I think people understand. He said all along, you know, there may be some short-term pain in order for long-term gain. And I think Americans ultimately want to see Americans back in the driver's seat, us prioritizing our jobs and opportunity here and the safety and security of Americans. So that's what's happening, and I'm hopeful that moving forward, we can figure out some proper negotiations. We can get everybody on the same team, get people working together to help us secure those borders, and then ultimately be able to achieve moving forward.
I don't want to ask too geeky of a question here, but this is, you know, we are standing in front of Congress, and what the president seems to be doing is using the economic might or power of the U.S. government to win non-economic victories. So immigration, not exactly immigration. I mean, that's border security. Drug policy, you know, stopping fentanyl. Do you think it's appropriate to use economic efforts or leverage to bring about non-economic results?
Yeah, I think that those people who have lost children, like Laken Riley's parents or Rachel Marin's family or Jocelyn Nungary, would say that their life is worth it all. And preventing another tragedy from occurring has to be a top priority. You know, it was the most litigated issue over the last 4 years, and Americans said we want results on this. I think ultimately, you know, what we will see is, in addition to this safety and security, it is also helping us make sure that we're empowering Americans, that we are creating creating jobs on our soil, that we're encouraging people. If you see the $1.7 trillion that President Trump has already gotten people to commit to reinvest in America, that's just the beginning.
Yeah.
We've got to build it strong from a national security perspective and safety and security, and ultimately economic success will follow that. We've had record high inflation over the last 4 years, and you have to think about how do we drill that down. In addition to these things, it's unleashing American energy. Because, Tony, that affects everything from the grocery store to the gas pump, but it also affects our ability to stand firmly with our allies as well.
Senator, in our final minute here, I want to ask about one of the hardest things to do in politics, which is go from the joint session of Congress or State of the Union, that big room, that big chamber, the president speaking, a response then follows
that's right.
by a member of the opposing party. You offered the response last year to Joe Biden's last State of the Union. Alyssa Slotkin will be doing it tonight for the Democrats. Any advice to her on how to do it well?
Oh, look, I sent Alyssa a text and said congratulations, because it is absolutely an honor to be selected by your party, to represent them on the national stage, and to be able to deliver that. I think you speak from the heart, and she'll do an exceptional job. So I am thrilled for her and excited that she has that opportunity. And I think, you know, what we're going to see tonight from President Trump is a really strong address. It's going to be hard to respond to it because he absolutely has a number of accomplishments he's already achieved, and he has a plan and a vision and a will to execute moving forward. So it's going to be an exciting night. President Trump is going to deliver an outstanding address, and it'll be good to watch.
I'm just imagining the text to Alyssa Slotkin. Good luck. You're going to need it. Thank you, Senator. I appreciate it. All right, CBS News, of course, will have complete coverage of tonight's joint address to Congress from President Trump.